everybody.
All right. This is the call to order to the Amherst County Board of Supervisors meeting. Let the record reflect. Our first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions that need to be made?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to suggest that we strike item 9A, and I'd also like to request that we add a closed session that Mr. Lockaby can speak to if necessary.
All right, you've heard Mrs. Tucker. There's a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion. Well, I will entertain a motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the invocation and pledge of allegiance. I would like to ask Mr. Drew Wade if he could lead us in the invocation, please.
All right, let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for all that you've done, Lord. We come to you for your guidance, your forgiveness, and just bless us with a good meeting here. God, let your hand be at work. We ask that you be with the folks in Ukraine as well as they're facing difficulties and whatnot. Lord, bless us today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Appreciate that. Next, we have citizens' comments. I have a list up here of people that have signed up, but what I will say before we start is we'll give each and every one 3 minutes to speak. The board will not be answering any questions directly. If you do have questions, please direct them to our county administrator, Mr. Dean Rogers. He's at the end of the hallway. He can also be reached by phone and email. So our first sign-up is Debbie Kinney. If you could please come up and state your name and district for the record, please. Oh, right here, ma'am. I'm right here.
Sorry.
You're on YouTube.
So,
My name is Debbie Kinney. I don't know what district.
Well,
Main Street.
okay.
What I wanted to speak about is the park that is being talked about put down in Rocky Hill and on the river edge. I don't have a problem with any of that. My problem is Main Street. How do you all plan to get traffic to go to this restaurant and zip line and whatever else is going to be down there? I've lived in the same house all my life, and that road has gotten worse and worse and worse. And right now, it's as bad as I've ever seen it. I've talked to deputies, and they say there's nothing they can do. I tell them to come sit on my porch with the radar gun just to see. Can't do that. But my problem is safety. Main Street is not that wide. I don't know if you plan on routing them up Rocky Hill and then up Stumps Hill, but even at that, those streets are not wide. So with all the traffic we have, the narrow road, the parking on the street, and the speeders, that's my whole problem. Somebody needs to come up with a solution for that. So.
Thank you. All legitimate concerns for sure. Next, we have Wendy Kroom. If you could state your district for us as well.
I believe I'm the 5th district?
Yes. We used to do addresses, but addresses are a little bit personal. Instead of giving out your full address, we just rather know the area that you're living in. So.
Yep, that works. So most of what I had today were questions, so I'll do what you just said and direct my questions. I'll get that information for you after this, but I live on Main Street. My parents live on Stumps Hill, And just as this lady just spoke to, my main concern for the project with the zip line and the restaurant is safety. Not only for the people that live there, but for the people that are going to be visiting. Because like she said, those roads are not very big. It's hard to get more than one car up and down. You know, if they turn on the wrong road trying to get to this restaurant, they're going to end up in somebody's driveway. So there's pets, kids playing up there. It's a residential zone, and that's exactly how they live day to day. Kids riding their bikes, pets on the road. When I was coming down Main Street earlier today, had to pull over probably 3 times just to get through because those roads are so narrow. So just like I'm sure you'll hear from many people today, my main concern with this is safety and understand the plans to mitigate that and make sure that it's well thought through and that it's going to work not only for the people that live there, but for the people that might be visiting this. So, but I will direct my questions. I'll get that information from you.
Thank you,
afterwards.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Florence Lunderou. Oh, I'm sorry. The best I could do.
Yep, it's one of those names.
And if you could just state your name and district for the record, or area of or location.
My name's Florence Lunderou. I live on Slums Hill, District 5. The lady who just spoke is my cousin. We all grew up there, and again, we have lots of questions about this proposed park that is 20 feet from my front door that we were not informed of until we saw a little blurb on Facebook that this is happening already in our neighborhood. Not just in our neighborhood, but literally where I could spit where it's going to be. You're not going to answer questions, so I guess that's all I have to say is I have lots of concerns. I will be directing them to you. It is the worst area possible for something like this. I have no understanding why anybody would think it would be a good idea. The article in the News in Advance the other day really concerns me when it says the county attorney is already willing to do condemnation. Leads me to believe no matter what we want, they're going to take my home that I paid for, my parents paid for, and I can't afford to start over. I shouldn't have to. And I shouldn't have to worry about coming home at night at 11:30 when I get off work. And who is going to be parked 15 feet from my front door visiting a restaurant, seeing me come in at a certain time every day? It shouldn't be something I have to worry about in my neighborhood. There is the training center. It's 400 acres. You want a destination? That's your destination. It's next to 2 highways. It's a beautiful campus. I worked there for almost 30 years. You could do so much there. For actual families, why come to our little neck of the woods makes no sense. Just because we have a hill that you can see Lynchburg. There's other things that could be done better with this tax money. And that's not including destroying my home and my piece of security. But I will be passing that on to you as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Sandra Newton.
I wrote her name down by accident.
Okay, no problem.
She's my mom.
All right, she has the same concerns.
Same concern.
Barbara Pryor?
Barbara Pryor, District 3, Board and Citizens. I think we can agree, Board, that something is stinking down at Shelter Lane. How we solve that problem may be very different. I was very surprised to read the executive summary this morning because maybe it came out and I missed it. But I was very surprised to see that an effort was going to be to allow the Sheriff's Department to retain control. And I unequivocally am opposed to that. The word control is not a humane name, and I think Amherst County needs to look to the other shelters in the area, be it Bedford or Campbell County, and take a lead from them. The animal control section of the and for those that aren't aware, I wrote a description, 2 things, Humane Society and the Amherst County Animal and Control, 2 different things running out of the same building. And I think that inherently makes for a confusing and problematic situation. Some that have been in the animal control have been there for a multitude of years, and I wonder how that is all working with, to make it good for our animals. So I think we need to make real structural change. I think there needs to be an internal review of what actually happened instead of, as I read this is just, no effort was made to speak to other people that have been involved with the shelter. And I also want to point out that on the pages I gave you all, I had written a letter, and it was way longer than 3 minutes, so I quoted some things in there, one of which is the animal control has a policy of not to adopt, and has not had an adoption policy since 2015. So on that third page, or the first graph there, you will notice 2016, animal control, no adoptions. At Humane Society, it has adoptions. 2017, animal control, no adoptions. And all the way up until 2021, there are no adoptions out of animal control. And I think when you're working at a whole new world, and I think we need to be more of the mind that animals are not people, but certainly worthy of our respect. And in my research, and I knew nothing about this, 2 months ago, but Amherst Animal Care and Control is the only public shelter in the area that has a 0% adoption rate, back for the 5 years. Simply allowing the public county shelter the ability to adopt out would be helpful. And I think new guidelines should be drawn up. I think there needs to be more of an effort to try and find out how we did it at other places. I know there's lots I have not said. I think my letter is pretty explanatory, and then I did have some questions. Has the board interviewed the previous shelter manager about events? Has the board looked into the relationship between the Humane Society and animal control? Why are only Humane Society animals being promoted on Facebook? Why are the animals in the county side ever spotlighted on social media? And that's because animal control has no adoption policy. Why doesn't animal control reach out to other agencies for help when overloaded? So I'm not going to keep going. I'm willing to answer questions, and to be quite honest, I didn't expect to jump into this, but I am more than willing to reach out to other agencies that have done the kind of work that you are looking into to keep it, to go in the way of other shelters have gone. And I would be willing to work with Lynchburg Humane Society, any of the rescue groups in the area that are out there trying to save lives and get dogs and animals in good homes. I appreciate your time and all the good work you do, and y'all stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pryor. Next, we have Lena Puckett. If you could just state your name.
I can't hear you.
Could you just state your address or your
Yeah,
district?
128 Stumps Hill Road,
Okay.
Madison Heights. Okay. Yes, I'm here, I want to save my home, and I think that they shouldn't put that restaurant or a park up on Stumps Hill. That's the way I feel. And we've been up there for years, and it's older people, and we don't need to get up and be moving, That's our home. And we love it up there. And I hope y'all will take it into consideration. And I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Puckett. Next, we have Kelly Whitmore. If you could just state your address or your district for the record, please.
I'm District 5 on Lane Street, directly across from where this proposed park and restaurant are slated to be. I believe that you may have been told that no one had an interest in these lands that are being condemned. That is not the case. I do have an interest that has been fought for and is instilled in the works for a number of years and spent a lot of money, paid the taxes on the land. The large parcel there has been maintained by me and my family since the 40s and even back. It's named Lane Street because of my family, L-A-Y-N-E. It's my family name. So the condemnation process has already started. You are taking a private citizen's land for this project, and That's not what that is intended to do. It's not necessary for the good of the community. Like Florence stated, there are plenty of other options, plenty of other lands that can be developed. Putting a park directly in front of my house, putting a restaurant and a zip line, that all sounds super fun, just not in a residential neighborhood where there are practical reasons and also moral reasons that it should not commence. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Linda Whitmore Fleury.
I am District 5 as well, and found it troubling that all this has already been put into place without the public even being aware of it, and that the fact that you're going to do it and take private citizens' land, my daughter in particular, is troubling to me. And then where does eminent domain stop? Will you be taking other people's houses? I think you've heard from the citizens that others are concerned about that as well. We're also concerned about the safety up there. We've had some trouble with the lower level of the park having some dangerous traffic there, some unpleasant traffic going on and some dealings going on down there. And, just to have that flow of traffic in our front yard where we never know who's coming to your front door. And it's right there at us, and it's troubling to us as citizens up there and property owners up there. So I would love for, the board to look at, that bluff goes for miles along the river, and there would be great opportunity where there aren't residential places that you would have to seize and take control of and ruin people's lives and homes for the sake of county pleasure. Not opposed to the fun and the idea of it, just where it's at and why it was chosen for that space doesn't make sense. I can't emphasize enough, I would hope that you would all drive down Main Street and witness exactly what we're talking about. You do have one lane of traffic available to you, so you've got oncoming traffic, one of you has to move over and stop, wait for the other to go by, and that goes on all the time. Now, exponentially increase that, and you can understand the deep concern of all of us that are on that path, and then the safety as well. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next we have John Fleury.
Fleury, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's hard to read.
District 5, please. Supervisors, I have spent 38 years of my life doing evaluations of government projects. Everything from boat launching ramps to projects that cost multi-billions of dollars. I am concerned of the lack of documentation and information that has been presented to the public. I have looked at the plans for the county, development plans on record. Those plans up until 2 weeks ago did not include expansion of this park. This area is not even zoned for the park. It is public housing and single and multi-purpose housing. But suddenly it is now being developed as a park. What I'm concerned with is the cost of this project, and what have you folks actually had in front of you to make your judgments? I'm assuming this is a public information gathering as opposed to an effort to get a rubber stamp from the public of a decision that has already been made without that input. The infrastructure, these folks have mentioned a number of times, the lack of corridor for vehicle space. Drive down Main Street, the utility lines on both sides, on one side are literally sitting on the edge of the street. The other side, just marginally off. If you're going to make this a two-way street, you're going to have to relocate the entire utility corridor along that road. You're going to have to make increases to the size of the road, and no doubt for the entire section of West Main Street, you're going to have to condemn a large number of homes to make it amenable to the extra width of that house. So what are the costs of these impacts? Now, this is first cost. What's it cost to build this thing is one thing. What's it going to cost to maintain it? Who's going to maintain it? I'm assuming this project has a life expectancy of at least 30, if not 50 years. What are you going to do with this infrastructure once it has been done? I'm talking primarily about the zip cords and so forth. There's going to be huge engineered foundations on both sides of the river to support this. It will wear out. It will wear out in the mind of the public. Who is the public that this is being built for? Only so many people in Amherst County are going to be able to afford to ride this zip cord. So are we catering to giving recreation to people from outside of the county? This board is supposed to be looking for money, income for the county, and it is also supposed to be looking primarily after the good of the people in the county. I have not seen anything that gives us a discussion of what's going to be done with this project, who's going to be the people that are attending the project, what's going to actually come into the pockets of this county. I mean, there's all kinds of information probably out there being generated as to what its benefits are going to be. You're going to get at best 9 months out of the year as far as the zip cord's concerned. That's going to be the moneymaker. The restaurant's going to have to be maintained by someone. It's going to be a private entity. The county is not in the restaurant business. Who's going to operate that restaurant? Are you actually condemning these people's homes, doing all of this infrastructure so some private entity can profit from the restaurants and the recreation there? What's it going to cost as far as the impacts on the Lynchburg side? I don't know if you've even consulted with the folks from Lynchburg. I've seen no document whatsoever that says what has been the planning process to date. Somebody walk in here a month ago and say, let's do this, and everyone said this is a good idea? I don't think so. But as far as the John Q. publics in this audience are concerned, that's the total of what has been put out there. 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting that you amended a plan that had been placed in place and been authorized 2019, I believe it was. Now, all of a sudden, boom. You've got this huge cost to the county, this huge impact to the people that live in that area. What's the net benefits, the total cost of this project over the total life of this project? Get more than the recreation day benefits out of it. Not opposed to recreation, but the way this one's being ramrodded, not right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? If there's anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward.
Hannah Wright, District 5. All right, so I own, along with other people, properties up in the Madison Heights area, Stumps Hill, well, actually all down in the lower, on Main Street. I just found out about this a few days ago when it started circulating in the neighborhood that this project was going to happen. I was aware of the connection to Blackwater Creek trails. Main Street is not going to tolerate that much traffic. I tell you, the minute you open a zip line, if it even got opened, Liberty students are going to flood in. There's going to be all sorts of crazy traffic, and when they can't find one way, they're going to drive a different way and try and turn around in people's driveway and crash into people's car and hit people's cats and kids. The road is not sufficient for that kind of traffic. I appreciate what's been done down in Madison Heights, down in Old Town Madison Heights, getting new houses for people that really, really needed them. Making things better, cleaning it up some. It's great. It's great for me as a business owner. It's great for my sister who lives there on Stumps Hill. A restaurant and a zip line, it's not the location for it. It's a residential neighborhood. Putting something like that there is going to affect the people that live right there. These are homes for generations, you know. And as far as the traffic, it's going to be really bad. And as far as there's houses that have just been rebuilt that are almost too close to even allow you to widen the road unless you want to be stepping out your door into the street. And parking, that's another thing. People down there park on the street. If you literally, some people do not even have a driveway they can pull into. Their only option is to park on the street. So there has to be some kind of plan to give them a place to park. I don't see that all happening in a cost-effective way. An extension of the park, for me personally, having a connection to the Blackwater Creek trails, me and my sister, we would love to just like trot right on down and go walking. I think personally that would be great. I think that would help to elevate the neighborhood. I think that was a good plan. I like that. Having a restaurant back door to somebody's house in a very old residential neighborhood where everybody's lived there a very long time and knows everybody, and all of a sudden have just anybody there all the time, I don't think that's a good plan. Having a zip line and having thousands of college kids there on pretty days, I don't think it's a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Hello.
Hello, just
Nicholas
state your...
Gill. I am recent new owner of 103 Lane. All right, there you go. Top of the hill, either way. I've been a couple zip lines. Where are the two anchor points?
Oh, they don't answer questions.
Oh, that's terrible. Because each ride would have to be like $20, $30 for this to make money, because the anchors for a line that long, it's like a quarter mile of wire. I mean, it's huge. You know, so I just don't see how you guys are going to make any money. Like, that money could be better served than just repairing the road. I mean, that road is terrible. Have you gone down that road by River Edge Park? I have to be on the left lane as I'm going into town, so I avoid the cliff on the right. And if someone's coming the other way, not to mention the blind curve at the bottom by the restaurant. So, I mean, besides the infrastructure, just the right-of-way, the traffic, the lights that have to go on, just to make that feasible, I don't think that's money well spent. You're only going to be using it, you know, someone said 9 months a year. Lucky if you get 9 months out of the year. I mean, flying down that to the other side of the river, even on a 70-degree day, you get to the other side, guess what? You zip right back, get in your car and go home, 30 minutes. That's just a terrible use of money. You guys could find much better ways to use this money. That's it.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward. State your name and district for the record, please.
Hello, I'm Calvin Carlson. I have lived at 330 Main Street, Madison Heights, where I'm 80 years old, so it's time for us to move to an apartment, so we're in the process of moving now. There's a lot of issues involved in this, what we've been talking about. I'm not here to address these particular issues, but I am here to address the issues of traffic on Main Street. Again, I live at 330, right across the street from the Madison Heights Baptist Church, I want to say, in particular, so I get to see all this traffic. And I've seen it over several years, and it's, as people have spoken, it's getting more and more. And cars are parked along the side of the road, and we have to do, it's like dodgeball getting down Main Street. Very dangerous situation. One thing I'll point about the issue of danger, when I first, I was getting to live there 44 years, but 30 years ago, a young boy came riding down the sidewalk next to the church and right onto Main Street. And of course, he's the fault. He wasn't looking where he was going. Then a car hit him. But fortunately, he wasn't very severely injured. And like, he might have had some broken bones, so I called back to my wife, call 911. Yeah, he was injured, and they did take him to the hospital. But I think he's going to be all right. But it could, if that car had been going, like some of these cars going down Main Street, he could have been killed, because they do drive awful fast at times. But the key thing I want to emphasize, and I've been on the committee to help work with the housing project, and several of the people here have been involved in that housing project, and have done an excellent job, and we've got several new houses built along Main Street now, but we had a little bit of money left over for extra projects. And part of it we talked about was moving some of the utility poles and doing some things like that, and maybe improving Main Street a little bit. But it's going to take a lot of money, and VDOT's going to have to be involved, and there's going to have to be money coming up to widen these streets, build some good retaining walls, so there can be additional parking. And we need input from all the people living on Main Street, so what kind of parking we need and how to do it. So we have good public input and get some good accidents on Main Street because of the Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, anyone else wishing to speak? State your name and district for the record.
My name is Pam Cyrus, and I didn't know you had to sign up.
You don't have to.
So I live at the end of Lane Street. So the restaurant would be in my front yard. I'm definitely against it. I've lived there for over 30 years. I've raised my children, and I expected when I passed away for my children to have my house and land. I am this is basically a senior citizen, except for a couple of people, neighborhood that have lived here from 30 to 50 years, maybe more. And we are too old to pack up and start all over. It's just sad that anybody would think that it would be a good idea to do this to us. I had my house paid off. I got one more payment on a 12-year-old car, and I've had to put $600 in it to get it repaired in the last couple of weeks. I don't have extra money to be doing these things. And it was our little piece of heaven. We have deers. You can look out any time and see 4 or 5 deers grazing in that field. You can see possums and raccoons, and it's like a habitat for them. If you put a parking lot there, where are they going to be run off to? They don't have much space as it is. The cliff where the zip line supposedly is going had rocks just fall down in below River's Edge Park. It was just last year. So that is not going to be a good place to try to put a zip line and put extra weight on that cliff. And what you can see, it's a cliff and then it's almost straight down. So if you had a restaurant there, you'd have to have some kind of fence, because little kids get out of people's cars and take off and run around, and they're going to be falling down a cliff or something other. I just don't think it's the right place. I thank you for your time and for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Cyrus. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward. State your name and district for the record.
Ashley Gill, District 5. Me and my husband just recently moved. We got it from a couple that lived there 45 years. They raised their children, and they were in tears of having to leave. It is a community that is like a family, and that is why we moved there. We're remodeling our forever home, and I want to die there. Not next to a restaurant, though. We were attracted to that area because we have seen amazing leaps and bounds of bringing it back to the original glory in the last decade. And it's incredible, and I love that. And I really want to see the county continuing to go in that direction. Keep building up the houses, keep bringing in the local single-family homes, giving opportunities for people to be homeowners and to invest in where they live, instead of it being taken over by a bunch of out-of-town real estate investors that are going to buy up, make a bunch of buy-the-room houses to cater to all these families and college kids that would come in for the zip line, and turn the town into a whole, it's something we don't even recognize. And we have 100 years of history there. I don't want to see that erased or changed. And I want to see all the good that we're seeing going to continue. Another
road to address when we're on this topic of traffic is Rocky Hill Road. So that is the road that connects Main Street by McBride sign and pops out on 29. So if this were to happen, an insane amount of traffic, we're talking hundreds of cars, will come up that road every single day. There is currently 4 feet of dirt on the road right now. It isn't even excavated properly for everyday people. I have lost 2 mirrors on that road. There is a vine the size of my forearm that smacks your windshield every time you stay on your side of the road. And all of the people that are driving down to the River Ridge Park where the amphitheater is being built, we almost get in an accident because they take that blind turn and I'm going around and nobody's in their lane because you can't even see the line because it's covered in dirt. I would love to be able to see that fixed. There is apparently an active spring under that road, and VDOT was out to try to evaluate whether that road will be repaired or not. They did a job paving it. The money that would be spent on just the insurance to insure this zip line could probably pay for 10 roads to be fixed in the town of Madison Heights. I love the idea of expanding River Ridge Park, adding the amphitheater, making it more family friendly. I love that. I don't feel a zip line and a restaurant have anything to do with the residents in Madison Heights town. And I don't like the idea of that one. I know that I would have issues with my property lines, but I would, I don't know why we're just offshooting in this crazy plan, but thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Rogers, I know you would you like to speak a little bit on this?
I think I would. I think I would just like to let everybody know where this is at in the process. And certainly a lot of excellent issues and points have been raised. There is nothing definite. There is nothing certain. The condemnation process has not been started. The Board of Supervisors have been presented an idea to expand the park, and I think they realize that it will affect traffic. There are multiple ways in and out. Can a zip line work up there? Don't know. An engineer will have to study that. Can you build a structure up there? We're not sure. The engineers will have to study that too. And then where would it go? Don't know. And how will all that fit together? What the supervisors have attempted to do is share with the public immediately, as soon as they thought of the idea, to share it with you. There's nothing done, there's nothing planned, it's moving forward. There are property owners up there that are willing to sell and add their property to River Edge Park. And then there are some properties that have no owners and some that are in dispute. And all of that has to be studied, it has to be planned out. This is not something that's a done deal. And the final result, it may end up just being a nice, if we go forward with the park and we do have an owner that's willing to sell most of the area, a nice grassy knoll that overlooks the city. So I invite anyone who wants to come and to my office, and I'll answer your questions. I'm happy to give you updates on the status of where it's at. At this point, we're still contacting property owners. I don't know if you're familiar with Horseford Road, the trail that goes down from the intersection there down to River Edge. We hope to develop that. That spring under Rocky Hill is a disaster. The hill is covered in ice in the winter, and we've been pestering VDOT for that. We have over $1 million in a CDBG grant to start removing the telephone poles from Main Street to take care of that. I think we should all be hopeful that this is an opportunity to fix the things that need fixing, and to make that, the supervisors want to make it a facility that everyone in Madison Heights can enjoy. And so you're here at the very beginning. You haven't missed anything. Nothing's been decided yet that you haven't been included as the public. And there will be more public input as we know what's possible. So I just wanted to say that so that people understood that no one's being left behind and no one's being left out at this point. We're just starting.
Could you tell us who is willing to sell their property?
The properties that have been identified are in the public package, and all those properties are identified in the county GIS system. And you can get that from the county domain website. That's all publicly available information.
Mr. Chairman?
All right, yes, ma'am. Ms. Tucker. All right, I think we're good now. We have let everyone speak. There are a lot of legitimate concerns from the public. This board has by no means made any decisions to go forward with these plans. It's an idea. It's been brought forward to the board, and at this point, there's really not a lot of movement. And there's no guarantee this board is all, on board with what is going on. All this has to be worked out. But it is an idea. The board came out and decided to let the idea be known to the public, and you will be all involved as we go forward, So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the citizen comments and move on with the rest of our meeting.
Could I ask that maybe the next meeting that we have concerning this be held like at 7 o'clock at night when more people don't have to ask to get off from work?
Certainly. We always have our public hearings and things of that nature at 7 p.m. on the third Tuesday of each month. And so in the future, we will try as a board to schedule any discussion regarding the expansion of the park at the evening meeting to facilitate everyone being able to get here and to voice your concerns. So we did not have this on the agenda today. We are not even speaking on the park today, but if we do and when we do, we certainly will do it in the evening to facilitate your needs. I appreciate all you all coming out here. I have family that grew up on Main Street many moons ago, but I understand the concerns, and we're certainly going to take them into consideration as we move forward. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to our item number 5, which is the first read of Ordinance 2022-0001 and sign exemptions. Now, if you all, let's just take a break. If anyone would like to leave now, we'll just let everybody clear the room, and then we'll move on to our next item. Well, I mean, they got some legit, a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but
It's on Sorry, not.
Yeah, right. All right, Mr. Bryant, we have ordinance 2022-0001, sign exemption.
Okay, what's before you right now is it's a first reading. We're asking you to consider sending this to a public hearing at our next meeting for a night public hearing at 7 p.m. This regulation would exempt any federally regulated sign, state regulated sign, and local regulated sign. We actually had a situation at Monacan Park where there's a FERC regulated dam, the Rusians Dam. 2 signs were required to go in Monacan Park, And one lesson that we learned was that with those regulated signs needing to be placed for safety purposes and identification purposes at Monacan Park, it did not meet our sign ordinance, and we did not have a way to approve them because there's already a county sign there. So what this does is exempt federally, state, and local regulated signs. Any questions?
Board, any questions? Any concerns? If not, I will entertain a motion to move this on to a public hearing.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Wade. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we have another ordinance. It's 2022-0002, Revoking of Permits.
Yeah, the next ordinance before you is also a first reading, and we're asking you to consider moving it towards a public hearing at our next meeting. And what this provides is another tool in the toolbox from a zoning perspective. What this does, it allows really you as a board, planning commission, and staff an opportunity when there are special exception permits that have been approved. It allows us collectively the ability to revoke a permit by resolution. That permit can start with the zoning administration office, move through planning commission for a recommendation, and ultimately to the board of supervisors. The process is set up to go through the same public hearing process that we do any type of special exception, where we do notice, advertising in the newspaper. But what this allows, when there are uses that are not being met either with conditions or haven't been exercised properly, it gives staff the ability, it gives the board the ability, and the planning commission the ability to all bring that up, and for us to then address those kind of problem situations. So this is something that would be helpful for staff. We recommend this for sure, and I would ask if you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Mr. Bryant? I just have a question. If I read this correctly, what would happen was, if you were to revoke a permit, there would be a public hearing.
Correct.
Regarding that permit in question, and it would come before the board, it would come to the planning commission, then the board of supervisors, correct?
That's correct.
So whoever was in question would have the ability to make their case.
That's correct.
As to why it should not be revoked.
Yes, sir.
All right. Are there any questions, board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board recommend advertising ordinance 2022-002 for a public hearing.
Motion on the floor by Ms. Tucker. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, next we have the consent agenda. And by the way, thank you, Mr. Brown, appreciate it. Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda? If not, we will need a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as documented.
All right, motion on the floor by Mrs. Tucker. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we have a special presentation by Ms. Sunny Monk regarding the second stage annual report. If you could please come up here. Sorry you had to wait so long, but it's good entertainment.
Well, I'm bringing good news, so that's great.
Yes, indeed.
I'm afraid, Mrs. Tucker, what district are we in?
You're in District 2, my dear.
2, thank you. I was going to say 1, but I know where I live, but I didn't brush up on my districts, I'm sorry. And I do have good news, and I'm glad to see you all interested in what's happening in our county. I doubt that any of us knew last year at this time that we would still be juggling the way we work and live together. But that's what we at Second Stage are continuing to have to do, to postpone or reduce our programming for public events. But it does feel like we may be seeing a break in the horizon. Just last weekend, my husband and I enjoyed a mesmerizing jazz concert by Liberty University faculty member Joseph Henson, who plays the saxophone. There was a pianist there that was just, I don't know where he got all those fingers and how he made all that noise, but we really are beginning to be able to do that again. Our tennis studios are full. We have a waiting list. We are offering a continuing variety of services from accounting to art to yoga, and we're turning a little bit into a wellness center in that we're offering 3 different varieties of counseling. Some of them are parent counseling. Some of them are for first responders. There's a young woman who is running an art therapy counseling opportunity for children. We continue to juggle online and in-person farm markets during the 8th season of our market. We were funded by a grant, again, from Centra Foundation, which allows us to move about $20,000 of food products through our vendors to food insecure neighbors. We have purchased and installed a refrigerator at the Department of Social Services so that we stock it with our vendors' fresh foods, and on Friday afternoons, if there's a family emergency in need of food, they can go to that refrigerator and take what they need. We plan to reopen our in-person market in May, and have had some real good conversations with Eric Bowen about how we can work together with the Ag Committee to make our market a collaborative thing, which we tried to do several years ago, and I think we're at it again. Last winter, we hosted, I'm just not sure, between 50 and 80 children in virtual art classes. We had to do a second series. The little things on the Zoom were so small because there were so many people involved. But it was all taught by Jennifer Fitzgerald, who is a stellar art teacher at the middle school here, Amherst Middle School. We screened movies on the lawn, enabled by funding from the Greater Lynchburg Community Foundation. We transformed the formal front entrance by adding an outdoor patio with seating and building a beautiful garden in honor of Dewena Osenga. And that was all icing on the cake as we accepted the awards for national and state historic status for the building. But the most fun we had was welcoming 6 Masters of Fine Art students from George Mason University who worked as resident artists in the summer programs with the children. They were mostly city kids, and one of the first things they said was, I look out the window and there's horses right there, and they'd never been that close to a horse. So they learned about living in a rural county. They had no idea. And our children learned what it means to be a passionate, talented young person that is seeking a job that doesn't exist, either by being an artist or a musician, something they have to forge themselves. So it was really, I think, a good learning experience going both directions. I tried to feed them chicken and some biscuits made by the baker at Sweetbriar so that they would know exactly, what we eat in the county. It's naive to claim that we're on the ending side of building maintenance and upgrades for a 140-year-old building, but I think we can see the light there. There's some outdoor scuppers that need attention, and again, from Greater Lynchburg Community Foundation, we will add some handicap walkways and better lighting so that as we open up programming in the evening, we'll have some calm that we think people will be safe. The one real disappointment last year was we had been in negotiation with Humankind to establish a daycare center at Second Stage for toddlers and infants of the least financially comfortable citizens. The first thing that happened was that the construction cost doubled. But even when they could see the light there, this has really bothered me. They couldn't find enough staff people to staff this daycare center. They had actually hired people from here, but they had to move them to Lynchburg to their center classrooms because they couldn't get enough there. So we're just really flattened out on that. I don't know. If it was just construction costs, we can fix that. But if it's people, we don't have the people. And I'm sad about that because I know we have the need. In fact, when we talked to Centra about that, the highest priority is affordable daycare so that I can go to work again. And we've got a stumbling block there. Finally, I want to call your attention to 2 items on the income and expense list at the bottom of the annual report. we do a very generalized income and expense statement for the supervisors every year. And this one is a little bit shocking. It's program income in and program expense out, and those figures aren't anywhere together. A lot more expenses than we have income. But I can turn that into good news because you've made that work. Thank you for your donation to Second Stage and the matching money that comes from the Virginia Commission, which allows us to keep our ticket fees and our registration fees at minimum or free of charge while we are still paying faculty and performers for those programs. All those virtual programs were free. I'd like to introduce, there she is, Brittany Gowan, who is our executive director, started in January. She's an Amherst girl and seems to know everybody or know of everybody. I just stand in awe of, I went to school, all that. But I'm learning what fun that is to really have that kind of, I've only lived here 35 years, so I just don't know anybody. But I've asked her to talk to you about what's coming ahead in the next year.
All right. Thank you. Hello.
Hi, my name's Brittany Gowan, and I live in Clifford. So like Sunny said, I started in January, so not too many weeks ago. The first thing that we did when I started was launch our Soundstage music program. So one thing that Second Stage is doing is offering affordable music lessons to students in the evenings. We have piano, voice, and violin right now. We also have some drum circle workshops that are being scheduled on the weekends, led by Ed McInnes. And we also are starting another virtual art series for adults in March, on March 14th and 15th. And like Sunny mentioned, we're going to be ramping up our efforts for our farmers market that starts in May, and we are currently hiring for a market manager for that. I think that's it.
Sammy wants a job.
Yes, if you know anyone. And then lastly, another sort of initiative that I'm trying to get going, I just need a little bit more time, is having Second Stage be a venue for a lot more events from our private citizens, weddings, receptions, birthday parties, those types of things. So we'd like to be an affordable alternative to some of the other places in the area and expensive wineries and breweries. So more to come on that.
Well, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Before we came today, we were beginning to put up the New Year Children's Art Exhibit. We did that for several years and couldn't do that before, but as of tomorrow or maybe Thursday, there will be exhibits from children in each of the schools in Amherst County, and we're not doing a reception right now. Maybe we'll do something at the end of the month, but please just slip into the main hall at Second Stage, and the work is delightful, just delightful, and I know the children are eager. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions, Board? I just want to say thank you for all that you do. I know it's a handful. I looked through the package and I noticed there was $15,736 done in capital improvements. There's an historical and state historical designation on the property that you all received. And so I know you all have been busy. Hopefully this year you'll get more people in there, and with the whole COVID, it dies down a little bit and people are willing to get out and spend a little more time together, and it will help you all. So
we're just seeing that this week. People are beginning to inquire about rentals, and that has been a major source of income for us, and we've lost it all. But I think it's coming back.
Well, good. I hope so. But anyway, thank you very much and appreciate the update.
Mr. Chairman, that has been a labor of love for me. It truly has. I remember when, we thought the bulldozer was going to be sitting there, and we fought through that, and then we fought through making it viable. And what you and your board and the volunteers have done is nothing short of spectacular. And every time I go down that street, there's just a bustle of activity, people parking, people in and out, and it just makes my heart sing, Sonny. Thank you. And thank you to the board. And welcome to second stage, and especially thanks to the volunteers.
Well, it really is a labor of love. We love it. Thank you for letting us do it.
Thank you, Sonny.
Thank you.
All right, next we get to hear about our annual audit. Brown Edwards will present us the 2021 audit. Mrs. Chapman is here to give us an update.
You actually sounded almost excited.
You're just trying to be...
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I brought you guys a little present today. Decided to do something a little bit different this time. It seems like you did your process with me. All right. Most of you know who I am. And there's one new member on board that doesn't know who I am yet. I'm Susan Chapman. I'm a director with Brown Edwards. And Drew has probably heard my name a couple times.
A few times.
But
Nothing bad.
yes. But as all of you all are familiar with me, I've been helping with the county's audit for several years, and every year I feel like I get to come back and I get to say nice things again. It's a lot better than the way it used to be, and this year is no exception. So this year I decided to get a little creative and play with my Excel graphing skills. So you guys get a few graphs we'll talk about in a couple minutes. But I'll give you a brief overview real first of the audit as a whole. We issued an unmodified opinion again this year, which is ultimately what you want. You don't want me saying anything else ever. As always, we ask a lot of questions of a lot of people. We pick a lot of people's brains. With some of the federal fundings and things that you guys have gotten in the last year or so, we've been picking on a lot of different departments. We haven't always had to pick on. We've picked on public safety. Sam's sitting right there. I see him. We had to ask him, well, how'd you decide these people were all public safety and we could pay them with this money? And we ask a lot of questions of a lot of people, and everybody that we have to pick on through this audit process, all of your department heads have been very responsive to us. So we really appreciate that, and I wanted to kind of not only commend Stacy for her hard work on the audit, but really commend your staff as a whole, because we do have to harass a lot of people to get this audit done. And they take it very well, and they deal with us very well through ups and downs and quarantines, and we can't come in, and we had to have staff miss a couple of days because we thought somebody might have been exposed and they weren't, and we got through it all, and they worked with us well. As a whole, the county has kind of weathered things well from a fiscal standpoint. Mentally, emotionally, we're all tired, we're all drained from it, but from a fiscal standpoint, you guys have weathered things very well. I think you'll continue to do that. A lot of the influx of federal funding has definitely helped with that. You had the Coronavirus Relief Fund, now you have the Coronavirus State and Fiscal Recovery Funds, which is an even bigger pot of money coming up, and I know you guys have been working through how to spend that. Overall, I think that all that money is allowing you to do things that maybe you couldn't have done had you not gotten that money and still had to weather the pandemic. The graphs you have, I picked some very selective information. It was more just kind of give a high-level overview and trends, and they're about 3 pages into the little thing I just handed you. But I picked a couple of things that kind of means something to different people and different questions I've gotten in the past from the board. And one of them is, okay, how much money do we have available? What can we do? How much money do we have to do projects? So I did 2 graphs. I did one about unrestricted net position, which is the government-wide full accrual type method, and I did another one on the next page, which is budgetary fund balance is unassigned. Both of these, unrestricted and unassigned, mean very similar things. It means money the board has not committed or is not restricted by external parties that you have available for spending. If you look at both of those graphs, you see that the board has a fairly healthy unassigned fund balance, and I did it as a percentage of annual revenues. And basically meaning that as of June 30, 2021, about 26% of your annual revenues that you collect, you have about that much sitting in unassigned fund balance. That's money available to the board to spend. Another way to look at that is the months in general fund, months of expenditures in your general fund that are in unassigned fund balance. And that graph on the second graph on the 4th page shows that you had 2.59 at the end of June 30, 2021. That means if the county took in no more money starting today at all, and your commitments could not be undone that you already have, you'd have 2.6 months before you ran out of money. That's essentially what that number means. That's not bad. I've had places have it in days. We worked with a locality several years ago that their town had about 12 days. No joke. So that's not bad. We have some places that have more. But you have brought yours down in the last couple of years intentionally addressing needs. You've bought public safety ambulances and equipment. You've done work at different localities throughout the county. You're currently working on a transfer station for the landfill to address that problem. So your decline doesn't scare me, doesn't surprise me, and doesn't faze me because you've done these things intentionally. They're planned. So when I look at your audited financials and I see these numbers moving, there's nothing there that concerns me as an auditor that, hey, there's something going on. I think that's still a good place to be. There is no actual set ratio out there. If you go and you look at different places, they're going to say it's based on the needs of your locality. It's based on how quick you can pivot. How quick are you able to bring in new revenue sources? The county is not tied to one big factory or center any longer that it brings in most of its revenue. Town of Alta Vista, for example, is. They've got Abbott. Something happens to Abbott, the town's in trouble. They don't have a whole lot. Town of Appomattox dealt with that with the closing of Thomasville. You do have Greif. Greif is very, very big. Greif does bring in some tax revenue, but the county also has other things. So when I see these numbers here, I may be not as excited as I would be if you were somebody who had one real big industry and nothing else, because you do have other revenue sources and other revenue streams available to you. But that is something, as you're working through budget, I thought that was kind of fascinating just to kind of stick out there. The next couple of graphs, I have percentage of equity and assets, and so it's basically assets to liability. If you know, those of you that work in business, you know assets to liability and your ratios are very important. They get less attention from the government side because you're not a business, but they're kind of fascinating, and I put them out there just to kind of show the county's fairly healthy. And from that standpoint too, you're not overextended. You don't have a very small ratio. The same thing with your quick ratio. A 1-to-1 quick ratio is your current assets to your current liability. So your cash and receivables basically against your current payables and other short-term liabilities. Your quick ratio was 4.8 essentially at June 30, 21, and 1-to-1 is considered a good ratio. So again, that's a very healthy place to be from that standpoint. Nothing there that raised any concerns. The business type activity column you see there, that is the service authority. And I included their stuff here. That is from that is from December 30, 2020, because that's what numbers are included in the county's June 30, 2021 audit. But those are a little bit older. I'm not talking about them because they're a little bit less relevant to current discussion because of the age of them. But I did put them in there just because they were part of the county's reports. The one thing I'll point out on the next one is the debt service load. The county's debt service load has typically been pretty low. If you look at 2017 through 2020, your debt service to non-debt service expenditures was about 8%. It shot up in 21. It is actually skewed because of some refunding, and I deliberately didn't exclude it, basically because when you do refundings, it does kind of throw those out there. But if you were to exclude those refundings, you'd be right back down where you were typically. So those numbers look weird, but they're actually expected based on the refundings you did. But you took some non-bonded debt to bonded debt. There were some leases and things that were done for some energy efficiencies and capital improvements, and those were then moved into some bonded debt. So I left them in there because the debt service load got skewed for that 1 year, but nothing there is of any concern because it was all done intentionally, and you did do better rates, and you got something good out of that deal. But that debt service load will drop right back down. The next one, this one's interesting. I got to put sales tax growth on yours. Some places we've had to put sales tax decreases. The county has done very well. If you look, honestly, you were fairly stable, and then the pandemic hit, and nobody could go anywhere. And people started shopping from home, and the county benefited from that. And the county has continued to benefit from that. My husband has discovered the secrets of online shopping, and I don't think the man will ever go to a store again. Ever. He thinks it's the greatest thing ever. Unless you wait till Christmas Eve to do your Christmas shopping. But anyway, there are a lot of people who will never go back to going to Richmond or to Northern Virginia to do a lot of their shopping. They're going to shop from home, and that's going to benefit Amherst County. It continue to benefit Amherst County, and I think that's why yours went up. You didn't drop because you don't have the big shopping centers that had no traffic all of a sudden. Your local businesses were able, your grocery stores and everything were able to stay open. Walmart stayed open, And people started shopping from home, and Amazon and UPS and FedEx started letting everybody on a first name basis because that's what people did to get through, and that's how you benefited. And a lot of our rural counties and towns that we work with saw the same thing. You guys are not unique to that. It's very fascinating. What I was really fascinated by was that it continued to climb in '21. I thought that was pretty cool. Will it continue to grow like that? Probably not. You never know. You have a change in Richmond with leadership, and you never quite know what's going to happen. And he's going to agree with me in a second here. But you never know what's going to happen when leadership changes within the state. So will it continue to grow? I can't speculate. The state has a budget. The new incoming governor can make changes. You have to wait and see. I don't think Stacy's going to budget that to grow as aggressively, and I wouldn't either if I was in her shoes, because I don't know what will happen going forward with that. That's up to the state. But I do think it's kind of fascinating. This really helped the county. As it has grown, you've grown $1 million basically from pre-pandemic numbers, and that's fairly impressive. And I double-checked it to make sure my math was right. I was a little surprised by that, but it was right. We confirmed that money with the state, so we know that number's correct. The last one I put in there, and this is one that it's kind of more of just an FYI type thing, but I did the math on how much you spend by function per capita using the county's population. And of course, like most places, education, public safety, and health and welfare are your big spenders, and that's true everywhere. Education being the biggest, public safety being right behind it, and that's pretty common. There's nothing unusual there with that. But I did find it just kind of fascinating to look and see what you're spending per citizen on those services and kind of how they've grown. And if you look, you will notice that actually education has dropped per citizen in the last 5 years. Public safety is about where it was 5 years ago per citizen. Now overall, those numbers have changed, but the population's also changed. Health and welfare has increased, and that's probably a function of some of the things that have increased in the county's health and welfare, including the CSA and the amount of money that the county is spending on the Comprehensive Services Act. That alone is driving a lot of that health and welfare increase, unfortunately, when I went back and looked at the numbers. But that's kind of just, I picked some very selected things. There's a lot of different graphs you could play with and come up with, but I picked just kind of a few highlights. And I know you guys are working through the budget, and you're talking a lot of numbers anyway, and I really didn't want to stand up here and talk 8-month-old numbers when you guys are working on FY23's budget. It just seemed kind of counterintuitive to my brain, but I wanted to point out a few things. And then overall, I just wanted to say we had no major concerns or issues with the audit. We had one minor management order comment that was new this year about reports and reviews, and some of that was a huge function of the state, and their quick stand-up of reporting for the coronavirus relief fund money was basically a Google form. And it's really hard to get somebody else to review the Google form behind you once you prep it and submit it, or try to print it and draft it. So the state standing up on the report process created part of that problem. I hope as they stand up reporting, the reporting that they're standing up for this new money seems to be better from the U.S. Treasury. But everybody has done a lot of things on the fly. That was our only new comment. I will point out one other thing. I know we have talked in the past about how many entries the county had every year when we started the audits. And last year, I remember I told you guys it was 30-something. I can't remember the exact number. I didn't go back and look. This year, we have no what we consider to be true audit adjustments. There are 7 adjustments listed in the letter that you have, the short letter that you have, and we consider those to be collaborative adjustments because Stacy and her group came up with the amounts and the information based on the questions that we asked them. We did not have to go back and tell them how to fix their numbers. So we have no audit adjustments this year, and I don't think we've ever had that happen while I've been auditing the county. It's just, you can't see her smiling because she's got her mask on, but I know she's excited. So I'll end on that high note, but if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them. And if you think of questions later, all of you know how to find me. And on the last slide, I put my information and how to reach me. And I also put the audit partner on there. The job actually quietly rotated audit partners last year, and it's no longer Norman Yoder. It's now Chris Banta. And Chris is a very talkative guy, a very outgoing guy. He just couldn't make it here today, but hopefully he'll get to come to the next meeting. But he'd be glad to answer questions too if you guys had any as well, if you couldn't get a hold of me ever.
Board, any questions?
One. So The overview of the audit lists one significant deficiency.
Yeah, that is the same segregation duties comment we've had for the last few years. The board, for the board's reference, we used to have it as a material weakness a long time ago, and they've kind of whittled things down, and we're down to a significant deficiency, and they've continued to whittle things down. And quite honestly, we're getting really close to where I'm hoping we can kind of make it go away. I think Stacy's got a few ideas to fix some concerns on the school's side. The school side has fixed a couple of their concerns, and they're looking at new software, and some of the issues we have will be solved by that software. So I'm really hoping, if not before that software goes live, the implementation of that software will allow that segregation duties concern to go away. That's our hope. But that is the one still lingering significant deficiency.
Very good. Any other questions, board? Ms. Chapman, thank you for coming here today. Appreciate it. You give us some pretty good news. I like what you give us. It's something we can actually look at and put our eyes on versus flipping through 300 pages trying to figure it out.
Not a problem. And like I said, there's other numbers we can play with, and we do other versions of this. We actually have something we do that's a little more formalized that has different graphs in it. So if there is something the board is interested in seeing, reach out to me and let me know, or let Dean or Stacy know, and if we can work something out when I come to present, we can always include other information.
And I'd also like to thank Mrs. McBride for her work, and of course it shows to the audit, and we appreciate you. We've come a long way, and thank you for the work you do. All right. All right, we're going to move on to old business. The first order is the Amherst County Service Authority Board citizen members. This was brought up by one of the board members here on the Board of Supervisors. Either Mr. Hopkins or Mr. Rogers would like to expand.
I'll take that on, Mr. Chair. This is just a topic for the board's discussion. When the Service Authority Board of Directors was reconfigured back in 2020 to include 2 citizens, the board directed staff that we would, at various times in the future, relook at continuing to put more citizens on the board. I'm just bringing that back. I don't recall which board member suggested it was time to look at that. The next agenda item with regard to the MOU, we'll take that up, but I think that's been resolved actually in a discussion today by the Service Authority Board and is now a moot question. So the only question before the board is whether you believe you want to continue moving toward the Economic Development Authority's suggestion that we separate the Service Authority as a separate entity out from the county government by giving it a completely separate board of directors. There was not, you all agreed on 2 citizens, and that was as far as you could agree, and I'm not sure where you all stand now, whether you want to, I can talk about the benefits of them being separate and the benefits of them being included as part of the county government, as a department, and we sort of lie right now in between all of that.
Yeah, I think we've heard that, we understand that. I know that Mr. Wade just recently got on the Service Authority Board as being just elected. Myself sitting on the authority, at this point, I have no desire to get off the board. Maybe in the future, it would be a good idea to transition, but we've got 2 good board members, Turner Perro and Wesley Woods. They've done a good job. I don't see where there's a huge hang-up with us being on that board. One of the things I like personally is that I can be held accountable by the ratepayers. I'm an elected official, so if I'm not doing my job either here or with the Service Authority, they have the ability to vote me out of office. And I've always said this, I think that people on the Service Authority Board, or at least the majority of it, should have some, the old quote, skin in the game. I pay the bills, I know what they are, I know what they look like. And if someone doesn't have any skin in the game, maybe they don't care as much about raising rates. We have a county that the majority of them are in lower Madison Heights and middle-class people. A lot of them don't have a lot of extra funds to pay bills. So I look at it as my duty to try to help those people just as much as economic development or water line, what have you. So at this point, I think the composition of the board is fine by my means.
Mr. Chairman, I was the one that asked for it, so let me just give you my comments. So when we discussed this back in 2020, it was one of the suggestions that had been brought forward by the Economic Development Authority. And it was brought forward as a measure to make everything more business-friendly, which, I mean, in concept, all of us agree with that. My personal reasons for seeing citizen members on the board were their areas of expertise. And so we've now currently got two guys who know a lot about engineering, specifically about the Service Authority, and I think that their input is invaluable. I can tell you when I was on the Service Authority board, I had to trust what I was told because I don't have a background in that stuff. I think I'm a pretty quick study, but there's only so much that I can learn. So I think having someone who actually understands the intricacies of this, who understands what planning for the future means, who understands these estimates, and can balance that against our future growth needs for the county. As we move forward, we're going to be looking at sizable investments down there. We're going to be looking at water and sewer extensions that will be absolutely critical to bring some projects that we all want to come to this county. Personally, I would like to see one more really good citizen member on that board. Maybe then we stop. But I think that we won't do anything but improve ourselves the more professional expertise that we have on there. Mr. Chairman, that's my...
Thank you, Ms. Tucker. Mr. Wade, do you have anything to add?
I can't disagree with Ms. Tucker on that. So, I mean, the more experience you have on the board, the better to be. I don't think it involves, removing one of the three of us from it at the time, though. So it would be an additional position, if that, so.
Well, so at this point, I don't know if we could do it. We'd have to rewrite the...
I was going to say, I don't know
Yeah, and then you have 6 members. So there may be a time, to do it. I don't know. Mr. Martin sits on the board. He may have an opinion we'd like to hear.
Yeah, I think that the board is functioning pretty well right now with the makeup. I think the 2 citizen members bring a welcome bit of information to us for us to consider. I do not think we're ready to move forward in appointing another citizen member. Maybe next year that'll change. But right now, I wouldn't be in favor of doing that.
All right, I know that, Mr. Wade also happens to be a professional PE at this point, so he brings a lot of expertise on that board, which is great.
Didn't mean to.
So
and planners never get respect. So.
Well, there's that.
Now, maybe this is something, and Mr. Ayers, I know that you may want to add something. If not, I certainly would agree with Mr. Martin. We can look at it on a yearly basis and make a determination at that time.
You all think that the board is working appropriately and everything is going well, I would have no reason to think otherwise.
All right. Okay. All right, well,
I'll bring it back again next year, Mr. Chairman.
all right, that sounds good. I appreciate it, Ms. Tucker. It's always good to have a conversation and about what is going on, and certainly it brings more people. Maybe we have somebody in here today that would like to serve on this board in the future, so it's always good to bring it to the forefront. All right, and then like Mr. Rogers said, the next item was a memorandum of understanding between the county and the Service Authority. At our Service Authority board, we made a motion to just take care of the refuge or the, I forget.
Discount.
The sludge, that was the problem. We had sludge at the Service Authority when we were taking it to the landfill, and there was a gentleman's agreement on it. We were trying to codify that. And through that, we decided that we would just go ahead and pay for it ourselves and not worry about it. So that's what we decided to do. So that issue has been resolved. All right, now, Mr. Rogers, we're going to move on to new business. We have the park grant match discussion. This involves is it a DCR grant?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Patrick Nally will present that.
Mr. Nally, come on up, please.
Dr. Nally.
Oh, doctor. Hopefully we're paying you enough to pay off all those student loans.
Yeah, we're just looking for funds, basically. We already have the money appropriated for the 2 parks, but the funds are needed. You can't match the grant with federal funds, so we're just trying to move them over to county funds, and then we can use the money we've already appropriated to match the grant. It doesn't change anything spending-wise, it doesn't cost anything, we're just trying to double our money with a federal grant.
All right, are there any questions?
Any questions on that?
I've looked through this. This would double our money if we get the grant, correct?
If we get it. And if we don't, nothing.
We're still doing what we were going to do.
We're still doing what we were going to do.
So we really don't have nothing to lose at this point if we're going out after this.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I think Ms. McBride has a comment.
She's going to make it complicated. I know. Don't make it complicated.
I'm not. If it's approved, we will need a early appropriation for the Mill Creek survey. That, I need you to...
We're going to do that in the budget meeting.
No, you need to have it appropriated. Otherwise, we have no money. And
So
we
you
can't
can do that.
appropriate in the budget meeting.
So to summarize that, because of the timing, that we want to get the survey done now while there's no leaves on the trees and get the boundaries marked around the lakes. We want to hire that we've let the contract, we want to hire them to pay the surveyor now, but all this money that we're appropriating isn't available until July. So what we would like to do is it's $44,000, as I recall, correct?
We just need 20 for the...
20 for the survey. So what we're doing is we would pull 20,000 out of the unobligated general fund so we can pay this bill, and then in July we pay it back. It's just a wash.
Yeah, 40 grand.
But we need an appropriation in order to take it out of your general fund.
All right. So we need a $20,000 appropriation if we want to try to get this grant. We want to move forward with the survey anyway.
Yes, it's something we would be doing either way.
And man, if nothing else happens in Mill Creek, we understand where the property line is, and we got that marked. Right now, we don't really know. But we have an idea.
Is 20,000 the right number? You said 20?
Yes, and I would think, I mean...
26.
David, is that we need the exact, do you have the exact number?
It's 40 grand, I mean, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong...
David, the exact number?
It's 20.
Is it 20 on the supplemental?
Okay, it's
It's 20.
It's 20,000.
Okay.
And $9.
All right, so I guess the first part of this...
$20,009. All right,
Such an
we'll be
engineer.
exact, let's do that.
So we'll need a motion, first we'll need a motion either on that, so we can move forward with the grant application.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we move forward with the grant application. That's my motion 1.
All right, motion on the floor by Mr. Tucker, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, and we're going to need a second motion.
Mr. Chairman, my second motion is that we transfer $20,009 to cover the cost of this.
All right, motion on the floor by Ms.
From
Tucker.
the unobligated general
From the
fund.
Yeah, I
unobligated
wasn't sure. From the unobligated fund to, what's its
survey,
But from unobligated fund to, what's its
To
destination?
pay for the surveys of the
Pay for the
parks.
survey.
And
Mill Creek Lake.
and have it be reimbursed with the grant money when it's received.
Either that or when we do the supplemental, we can indicate that as being
Yeah,
paid back.
that's
Would be
true, too.
easier problem.
Yeah.
All right, I want to do this over again because that kind of got convoluted.
I concur.
All right, I make a motion that we transfer $20,009 from the unobligated fund to pay for the survey at Mill Creek Lake, and in July, we will transfer the money back.
David, did that 20,000 cover Mill Creek and Stonehouse, or just Mill Creek?
Just Mill Creek.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, that's my motion.
All right, there's a motion on the floor by Ms. Tucker. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the county administrator's report.
Yes, you have there for your information the positions that are opening up between now and the end of June. I do have a couple items, though, I need to bring up that have just come in that weren't able to make it on the agenda. The first was a handout that I put in front of everyone. The funding for the defeasement of the Central Virginia Training Center bonds, $25 million, was included in the Senate's proposed budget that was sent over to the House. But it is appearing as though the House is not going to approve that, and so the Alliance has put out an action alert asking its members to send letters directly to delegates Terry Austin and Matt Ferris, urging them to support putting that $25 million back into the House's budget. And I have in front of you at the bottom of page 2 the proposed language. I would be pleased, rather than asking each one of you to send an individual letter, I'd be happy to send a letter on behalf of the Board of Supervisors if you authorize me to do so. So I'd request a motion that you direct me to express your wishes with this regard to the House of Delegates.
All right, Board, what's your pleasure?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think absolutely that we should support having the county administrator draft that letter and send it directly to delegates Ferris and Austin.
All right, motion on the floor by Ms. Tucker. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
I'll get that out tonight or tomorrow. The next item, Mr. Chair, is I sent an email to the board with regard to the James River Association down at River Edge Park. As you know, they're planning to begin construction on their Upper James River Center. And in a fundraising effort, they want to make various elements of the construction project nameable. And so I sent to you things, for instance, they would want, for $100,000, one could name the pavilion. There's an indoor lab, a bateau lab, they would, naming rights to that. And so they've provided us a list of the various elements that they plan to build, and they assert that they will inform the donors that those naming rights will only exist and remain so long as they are still leasing that property from us. Okay, so it's not a perpetual county name, it's a James River Association name on something that they are constructing and paying for.
It's a sponsorship, basically.
It's a sponsorship, yes, sir. So I need your thoughts on that, whether that's okay to proceed or whether you want to exercise more control over that.
Well, if we're leasing them the property, why do we have control over it anyway?
Because we own it. So they have the lease, it's a 10-year lease. They pay us $500 a month. And, but they're going to add to that property. And when they add to it, when they build these pavilions and these other things, they become ours. We own them. They leave them behind. They don't take them with them. Take it with them.
I think it's a great idea to allow some extra income to hopefully maintain the property and grow it. What's your pleasure, Board?
All I'm looking for is just to send an approval to James River Association that tells them the board is okay with this, you may proceed with sponsorships.
I support it.
Yeah, I think you've got consensus.
Okay. Good. That's all I needed.
All right. Anything else?
That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
All right, next we have County Attorney's Report.
Mr. Chairman, I've got nothing to add. I'm just glad to be here seeing y'all.
All right, we appreciate having you. It's good to see you. You're looking good as ever, right?
Doing my best.
Next, we have Liaison and Committee Reports. It just so happens that the Planning Commission, which I am on, is on the list here. The only thing of note was a rezoning request at the end of not at the end of Dillard Road and Route 130. It's a small parcel and they wanted to rezone it. It got tabled at this point and I don't know the status of that, so it could come back up in the future, but there was some concerns with how narrow the property was. There was some concerns with traffic and so forth, but that got tabled and may come back to us in the future. Other than that, the Planning Commission continues to meet, and Jeremy Bryant's doing an excellent job for us, and I appreciate my time on that board. So other than that, there's no other committee reports. We'll move on to departmental reports if you have any questions. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and go to citizen comments. Is there anyone wishing to speak? If so, please come forward. Seeing no, okay. You come on up and just state your name and your area of residence.
Hi, my name's Daniel Fitzgerald from Amherst County, Madison Heights area. I just wanted to ask the board, this is pertaining to a more specific scenario that happened to myself and my family. What can the board do to ensure that our children are safe at certain daycares in the area? It seems like every time you follow the proper procedures, and this is myself and other citizens, hundreds if not thousands, have followed the proper procedures, went through the local Department of Social Services, went through the licensing, and everything is always swept under the rug, and nothing is done. What can we do more to ensure that there's accountability and that our children are going to be safe?
Can you specify what problem you're identifying? You're being
Yeah,
very
yeah.
polite and generic.
Yeah,
Give us some examples.
Of course. Well, I have an inch thick worth of photographs, comments from the community of where my son was attacked at daycare, and nobody saw it happen. It went unfounded with the Department of Social Services. Licensing found no violations. This seems to be a common reoccurrence with the same daycare, the same director, and it's always swept under the rug. It's not just me.
Have you been to the Sheriff's Department?
Sheriff's Department did not do a thing. They investigated, but they couldn't do any charges or anything. I have a police report as well.
So they didn't have enough evidence on which to act?
They didn't have enough for what they considered neglect, which would be like a broken bone. But if you'd like, I'd be more than happy to show you pictures. What the Department of Social Services says is this could happen in a split second. What my medical professionals say differs than that.
Please come down and see me. I would suggest tomorrow or anytime you can make an appointment and you can walk me through all of that. And we'll see what can be done.
So I've already went through all of the proper procedures. What more could potentially be done?
I don't know. I would have to see what you're talking about.
Other than like some type of zoning I have not a clue. I mean, we can't really.
No,
Is anybody on the board familiar with the scenario at hand?
No.
Yes?
I am, yeah, you know that I am, yeah.
Okay. So you're very familiar with the scenario at hand?
Yes.
And you know that it's reoccurring, and you know that there needs to be a stop to it?
Okay, thank you.
We appreciate it. Mr. Rogers will be available to talk to you. Other than that, at this point, I don't know if there's much we can do.
If you go down to the end of the hall, the last office on the left, and talk to anybody in there, just get an appointment on my calendar.
Are you free after the meeting?
Well, this is going to go on. We have another meeting starting at 5.
Okay.
But later on, tomorrow or the next day or whatever. I'd be happy to meet with you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close citizen comments, and we'll go to matters from members of the board. Mr. Wade?
None at this time.
Mrs. Tucker?
I do. One, I sent an email to Mr. Rogers and members of the board about the fact that on our plaque that notes former chairs of the Board of Supervisors, that at least Mr. Vandal and Mr. Campbell's names are not on there. And I think that, Mr. Rogers, you were going to see if anybody else was missing. So, thing one. Thing two, I've had a lot of people ask me about a hotel update in Madison Heights from Oh, fiddly dee, what's the name of that restaurant? I mean, that hotel, Jimmy, we had so much
The
trouble.
Thomas Motor Inn that used to be years ago. Right there that half of it.
Scottish Inn?
Scottish, yeah.
Yes.
Scottish.
What's an update on that?
They have fulfilled everything that we've asked of them, and they are in compliance. Nate runs by there on a regular basis, and we respond to complaints as they arise. It's a,
But it can just sit there half torn down into perpetuity?
so long as it's not in violation of any of the rules that we have. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right, that's an answer. Third thing I want to say is that for those of you all who go through Amherst and you go through Amber Shopping Center, a new business is moving in at the very end, which has been vacant for a while. It was called Reedy's Archery. The gentleman is out of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and for whatever reason, Amherst County seems to be a magnet for Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Go look at this guy's website. He does amazing things for public safety. He gives bows away to kids. He is involved in training, works with veterans. This guy is awesome. He's going to be an asset to our community. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tucker. Mr. Ayers?
I have nothing.
Mr. Martin?
Sure. Mr. Rogers, could you just have VDOT look into Rocky Hill Road with the dirt and the limbs hanging out into it, please?
Yes, sir. I've already been pestering them about the springs underneath it.
Yeah, that's been an ongoing.
Yeah, well, there's another spring right there on Route 163 as you cross the road.
Yeah.
It's in the middle of it and been there for years. I have nothing. So, at this point, I guess we need a motion to go into closed session.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, that you would be looking for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711, subsections A6, relating to discussion or consideration of the investment of public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, where if made public initially, the financial interest of the governmental unit would be adversely affected, and discussion of the award of a public contract involving expenditure of public funds, and discussion of the terms or scope of such a contract where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the county, specifically relating to a financing and facilities use arrangement between the county and the Humane Society at the animal shelter.
All right, I'll make that motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Stiff.
If you want to.
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And now we need a roll call vote, I believe.
A motion to certify that all matters discussed in closed session were those for which we went in under the motion to go into closed session, and that all matters are properly exempt from the open meeting requirements of the Freedom of Information Act.
All right, motion on the floor. Q, aye. Or however we want to do it. Usually somebody.
It's a roll call, all right, Mr. Wade?
Ah.
Ms. Tucker?
Aye.
Mr. Ayers?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Chairman Pugh?
Aye. All right, now, we need to, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, motion on the floor by Mr. Ayers. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, next we have the Board of Supervisors Revenue Proposed Budget Workshop.
We're going to set up the slides if we may, Mr. Chair.
All right, if anybody needs to stretch or use the bathroom, by all means have at it.
Do we need to hit a button up here for you?
Yeah, but I always forget which one they are when we go to the front. Top two, Regina? Miss Regina will take care of it. She always, I swear I need stickers up there.
There you go.
There you go.
I got it.
There's stickers.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I read your sticker.
Okay, all right.
She's up.
Oh, so you don't need the
Yeah.
agenda? Good. Okay.
But I'm going to have it.
Oh, you want
I'm going to
it?
have it here for me. So
Oh, all right. There. There it is.
Oh, yeah. That one they're never gonna see.
I know, there's no point in that.
Well, no, they have it in their packet as a separate file.
Yes, they can call it up if they want. Not too much, just the total.
Well, I mean, I think my biggest thing is, okay,
Now, Okay.
All right, I mean, y'all ready?
Begin? Okay, let's begin. Okay, it's a workshop, so relaxed rules. Everybody can jump in the middle. Members of the staff here are ready to answer your questions as they come up. We have taken all the input that you have given to us over the preceding couple of months, and I have ready to project an operating budget for you. The main themes of this budget are, yes, revenues are up, as Susan Chapman said, a lot from sales tax. So in that regard, if you'll recall, at least I certainly recall, when I was hired, it was we have to stop raising property taxes, we need to get more business-type taxes and sales taxes, and so that's happening. We are conservatively estimating that at just a 0.5% increase, but it's there and it's quite solid. And so we are using that increase in revenues to do three things. One, to give everyone a 5% cost of living increase. We'll see what coal averages out, but at this point it's still at about 7%.
I know this is an overview, but can I ask you a question?
Of course.
What are other localities doing? I just want to know, are most of them targeting the 5%? Do you know?
Some are going over.
Okay.
And some pick and choose.
Some are going lower, some are going higher,
Yep.
some are going...
And then they'll pick and choose between different career fields.
Okay, and then on the health insurance, when can we go out for bid on the health insurance again?
Next year.
Next year?
Or this fall, whenever, for the next one,
fall.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that would have been a lot higher had we not done what we did.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, they did a really good job of keeping it low, but we just have had some increased costs.
And then, when you approved the project for the high school, that did add to our debt service in the amount of $75,000 of recurring revenue. Okay, so those three things are really where we're spending the income, and that is dedicated toward the future fund, but we're only putting $350,000 of that into the future fund, just in case it comes in a little bit low. So we don't want to promise to the future fund more than we actually receive. So anyway, so it's a $49 million budget. Now, how does that $49 million break out? Well, 46.7 of it. Can you go forward one slide, Stace?
I have a question for you.
Well, hang on,
Okay.
I'd like to add one comment, and that is that I did not raise sales tax to the max that I think we'll get this year, because I don't know what's going to happen in the General Assembly, and inflation is playing a little bit into how much people are spending. So just so you know, I kept it at 3.8 instead of going to the 4 million that I'm projecting for this current year.
So my question is on the personal property taxes. We all know that the value of used vehicles are through the roof and that the value is going to be more, which means more taxes. Are you planning for that? And if so, what happens if this board chooses to do something similar to Lynchburg to reduce the tax burden on our citizens?
So, we are not planning to reduce that, but this is the workshop at which you would tell us to look at that, to play with the percentage, play with the ratio, however it is you want us to do that, but we have not done that, and we would have to go back to the drawing board and see how to adjust that.
Well, Ms. Tucker, you brought this up last time, and we didn't have an opportunity to do anything, and now we do, so...
Yeah, and I've also reached back out, to the commissioner and to see what was possible, and she had reached out to Lynchburg, and she said a lot of times we follow Lynchburg's lead. I think that there's any way that we can do something that we should.
Okay, so should we try to bring back to you to copy Lynchburg, whatever Lynchburg did with their ratio? I mean, I think it was, they're gonna tax, 80% of the value of the vehicle?
75%.
55? 75%, okay.
But what does that do to our budget when you
Well,
do
that's
that?
what we have to go calculate and come back and see if we could absorb it.
I mean, I understand, but what is it gonna do when the value of the vehicles drop again. I mean, they're artificially inflated.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I don't know when they're gonna drop again. They're still high, sky high. And then if you do take away the personal property, I don't like the tax at all. I wish the Virginia Assembly would get away with it and go in a different route. A lot of other states have. But does that mean if you drop that, then all of a sudden we're in a position where you have to increase real estate tax to cover the reduction in property tax? So you're kind of,
Well, it looks like you're roughly talking about fiscal year 2020 was 6.9 million. Fiscal year 21 was like
2 million. 2 million, easily.
So a reduction of the budget by 2 million to take it to 75%. Okay.
Well, just to go back to 2020, it would be, I mean, you're proposing 7.3, that's like what? $500,000?
25% of what you have collected at almost 7 million would be almost 2.
Okay, but you're proposing $7.3 million in the budget.
Yes, but if you adjust one, you're gonna have to adjust all, and I think it's gonna.
knock 25%
I think
off.
it's gonna change some other ones along with that one, like your bid, I mean, I would take 25% off of whatever 7.3 divided by 4. About 1.8.
Well, that's assuming we go with 75%. We could look at what would it take to drop it back to last fiscal year or the year before that, right?
Yes, I would have to look at that. If you want me to go down that route, but yeah, that's.
At least I think there's 2 board members asking you to go that route. 3,
You want me to look at dropping it back to what it was prior to,
20,
you want me to look at 2020s?
prior to last year, because last year is when it jumped.
Well, if we're at 7.3, and last year was 7.0.
Yeah, you gotta look at 2020.
All right.
It's about 400,000.
7.3 minus 6.9, 0.9 equals 7.3 minus 6.9 is 0.4. Divide that by 7.3. 7.3, math, that's a 5% reduction. So, you would tax it 95%.
Okay.
So, if you want us to do that, then we'll need that direction coming out of here.
But I think we need to go through the rest of the slides first, so you
Yes,
see
so
where
you-
you stand
Right.
before you make that move.
Right. Okay, so now let's look at that $49 million and where it goes. So 46.6 of it goes toward our O&M budget. 1.7 million of it goes toward the CIP, and we'll show you the list in a second where they go. 300,000 of it goes toward the one-time expenses. One-time?
Huh?
Of
Yeah,
the supplemental. The one-time supplementals. Leaving 267,000 for recurring revenue to put somewhere else.
Dean, before you go forward, this is where I had them address the operating budget if they have any questions.
Okay. All right. That's a good point. So in your package was the actual O&M budget of all the departments. We went through the O&M budget. We looked at the historic costs that, for the last 3 or 4 years. We reduced everyone down to their historic rate. Those that anticipate increased expenses were increased. There's a note in there every time there's a significant change that was provided to you. This is the workshop at which you would challenge the O&M budget. And we, the assumption is that there's nothing new, nothing extra. This is turn on the lights and unlock the doors for a year, what it would cost to operate at where we're at now. with whatever expenses have been increased, like if contract costs have gone up or whatever. It also includes the 5% COLA. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns about what was requested for O&M? I tried to send it to you out, as soon as we developed it a few weeks ago, and then again as part of the agenda package. It's the same document.
All right. You moving forward?
Go forward, Mr. Chair. I'm not hearing any concerns about the O&M budget that's
Board,
proposed.
I mean, this is kind of informal. If you have any questions, at this point, you can move forward unless there's... All right.
Okay, so for 46.6 million toward that bare bones budget, 1.7 million, and we'll show you in a second, we took your top items on the CIP and the top items on the supplemental, leaving 267,000 in recurring revenue. So where should that revenue go? That's the question. So here's the supplemental budget where we suggest the cut line to be. So it is just under the cool well flooring. What we're leaving out are the maintenance department tablets, the flooring at Monroe Community Center, the leaf guards, playground at Family Services, a boat, the remote control mower, and a snowplow. So we took the boards, those are the priorities that we took, and that's where we got the 300,000.
No, that's part of it.
Well, okay. For that list, anyway, yeah.
I mean, the recurring expense that you have left over, in my opinion, you could do put it back in your fund, your rainy day fund, or your unobligated fund, which we've seen it has decreased, but we also have the cigarette tax that is going to be added to it. B, you could use some of those funds to fund the tax rebate on the vehicles, which you all were talking about. And that would be the two. I don't want to use it on another.
Yeah, or you could lower the cut line lower. Yeah,
Or you could do
to
that.
buy more
Well,
things.
And I said last meeting, and I think I've said it since I've been on the board, I do not feel comfortable using one-time money to start funding recurring positions.
Right.
I don't think it's a wise budgeting move, and honestly, I'm not going to support it.
Right.
So,
Well, these are one-time items. The next slide.
no, those are recurring.
You have the I have the recurring.
Oh, you have the
up.
recurring, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
You were talking about it, so I moved on.
Okay. So yeah, these are the recurring.
But you're not using
Items.
one-time money to fund those.
No, this is all recurring money to fund these. And we just took your list and the priority that you gave us.
So let me explain. You have I forget the number,
$67.
$7,000 in recurring money that's going to pay for this cut line. The $300,000 includes the one-time cut line and what is on here as one-time. And that comes out of your unobligated general fund.
All right, say that again.
The $300,000 for the one-time expenses does not come out of...
The other slide.
The other slide does not come out of recurring money. It is budgeted to come out of your unobligated general fund. So now you have $267,000 in recurring money that can fund above the cut line in your recurring costs. The money will be there year after year after year. So,
We hope.
well, in theory, it will be there, and then we had some left over.
Yeah, this does not spend all that 267.
No.
Okay, show the next slide. Does that have
I
the?
can't remember.
I'm just looking at those two positions.
Yes, there it is.
Yeah, so here, those are those positions. There's still 111,000 left over of recurring money that's coming in every year that we're not putting toward anything. We suggest that you put that in the future fund. Now, you don't have to. You could dedicate it to something else.
But then we go on and we talked about adding, I'm not sure how many positions for janitorial staff, right?
Well, we'll get to that, but that's out of the existing budget. That's not,
Well, but what I'm getting at is we're adding more and more staff, right? County's really not growing in population, but we're adding more and more staff. And we're going to have to pay for more and more staff year after year after year. So we're increasing our cost of living expenses, we're increasing our health insurance costs, all of those things.
we are. Yes, sir.
And, yeah, to me, before I'm going to vote to add any more staff, and even after I see it, I think I'll be reluctant to, I want to see more justifications for it.
Okay. Well, we have slides on that we'll get to. If you want to address that now, we can. I mean, basically.
Whenever you want to do it, but.
Okay. All right, then anybody have any questions about the recurring money? There's recurring money left over.
I don't have a slide for those.
Yeah, you do.
I do?
Scroll down.
No, I don't.
There we go. There it is. Go back up.
Well, that's for the janitorial.
That's what he's talking about.
He's talking about the other two
He's talking about the
positions.
grants administrator.
I'm talking about everything.
Yeah.
Oh!
Right, I don't know what you want on the
Oh.
grant administrator. I mean, that's been discussed.
Well, if you
but-
look at we discussed it, but we haven't said we're going to fund it.
Right, but I don't know what metric you would like me
If
to
you look at the sheet, okay, and we're going round and round, so let's just talk about the grants administrator. If you look at the
Go back
sheet,
to that supplemental.
it says, if I remember correctly, because we've got all this ARPA money, we need more help to do the reporting requirements. That's what it says. And then it says something like, we may be able to get more grants if we have this position. We don't know what we can't get because we don't have the position.
Well, I would have appreciated to know your question before now, but I will look into that and let you know all the grants that I'm currently monitoring on my own, as far as I need someone else to do that so I can do my real job.
Well,
Yeah, this is not driven by ARPA.
Isn't that the point of this workshop? To ask questions?
Yeah.
Yes, but I didn't have an idea that was even on the radar.
Yeah, we thought this was your highest priority and that you all had agreed that you wanted to do this.
We had agreed to do it, but we never talked about how we were going to fund it if we were going to do it. You said the money doesn't matter, just put it on the list of what you want to do. So until we sign the budget, I mean.
Okay, all right. Well,
I'll be the first to admit, I would rather see the grants administrator and the deputy fire marshal. I don't think we should be hiring people in the condition we are with inflation sky high. You can name it, gas, clothing, food, and all of these things. We're doing a 5% increase just on COLA. And we're going to hire 2 new people when a lot of people are struggling. And I can't justify either one of those positions to my people. I have a hard time doing it.
Well, I gotta tell you, maybe I misunderstood, because I thought of all the positions that we talked about, and I'm with Tom on this one. I have to struggle with adding more people to government. That one's hard. But the grants administrator, I thought we all agreed to, because that one's gonna pay for itself. I mean, to me, that was the only no-brainer in here.
We think it might take.
Well, there's no positives in anything, but
well, the grants administrator, it is true that we've got ARPA to deal with, but we use Department of Transportation, TAP grants, Virginia Outdoor Foundation grants. We apply for corporate grants in other places. There are other federal grants from the Department of Agriculture, from the Department of National Park Service grants, and they all have different rules on how you have to account for them. Some of them are reimbursable, so you have to spend the money up front and they get reimbursed afterwards. Sometimes you get the money up front. Sometimes you get the whole amount after it's all over with. And it's a lot of accounting. It's a lot of manpower to keep track of all these different things. And we always pursue grants. I mean, we as a staff feel obliged to serve the citizens of the county by get as much free money as we can get. Well, that has a tail, a huge administrative tail.
Okay, so.
And so we want to hire a person to do that additional work.
So you said that we always do that. So what has changed? Are we getting more grants, or is it just ARPA that's changed?
Nothing has changed, other than we're getting successful. Now, there's a lot more money out there floating around because of ARPA. We win a lot of grants, but the River Edge Trail has been built with grants.
The other thing, my understanding is that, wait a minute, let me finish up my one sentence.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get...
Is that, I mean, we do apply for a lot of grants, and they're getting more complex, I get all that. But how many are we not applying for because we don't have the time and the manpower? I mean, we're applying for the easy ones, and we got every single agency that's here that's represented that can go for a grant.
Right, and they do.
And all of them do, and I know y'all do.
Bob, who do you have helping with your grants?
Heard the problem.
Okay. So
You're
you're
a
outsourcing.
consultant.
You're outsourcing.
I don't know what you're talking about in administration.
Yeah.
But I didn't know whether Heard the Profit might be able to, they are one of the county's engineers.
We don't just get grants for engineering projects.
Yeah, our engineers get grants for us too. We also get grants through the PDC. You all know Kelly Hitchcock. She has been administering the CDBG grant down in Old Town Madison Heights.
No, she's
Or now it's...
Matt Perkins.
Matt Perkins does that. And so they do a lot of the accounting. Because we hire them and that's how they get some of their funding out of the administration costs of that.
He does the front end, we do the back end. Our hands are in every single grant that this county gets, and part of what we've done is centralize it into our office to make sure everyone is crossing their Ts and dotting their Is. Because a lot of stuff goes unreported in a timely manner. I spent a lot of time cleaning up that depot grant.
Yeah.
I mean, because it wasn't reported like it was supposed to be, and
Now, this is not a new pop-up. I think, is this at least the second year we've had the grants administrator
no, it's
on
the
those?
first year, but
The first year? Okay.
I spent 3 days this week just working on one, just trying to get it straight with the agency that we were applying to. I can't do both and still have a life.
And, well, how many people are in your office?
I do not have but one accountant.
You have one accountant.
One accountant. I have a payroll clerk and an accounts payable clerk. They do not have the skill set to do grants.
And they're busy. They have a full-time job.
Yes.
Working ours and the school's payroll and all the payables. I mean, we do the purchasing for the schools too.
The job's been getting done, I can say that, though.
Yes, it does get done. And everything does get done, and it gets done at a high cost. And it's, we have the revenue, we have ample revenue, we're conservative in the calculation of that revenue, and we want to apply that revenue to make our processes work better, faster, and more efficiently, and there's still revenue left over. What information do you need to help you decide whether this is, we get it. You're not in the office and having to respond to the regulators and prepare the reports and go to the meetings and get on the phone calls and go through the audits. You don't see that. Well, I get that. So what is it that you need to see to understand the workload that creates? And we'll try to, we have workshops scheduled now out every Tuesday until you all have the information that you need. Happy to provide it.
Is there any information that would change your mind?
No. No, I've already made my decision.
So these functions, you would have that recurring revenue just go into the general fund.
Could you come up with a list of the number of grants you haven't been able to apply for? Just
No.
No.
I didn't think so.
No. I mean, that
I
you're
can tell
asking
you
us to
how it
count a
works right
negative.
now.
Yeah.
If I get something in my email and I don't have time to do it, I push it out to somebody else that it might apply to. If they're going to apply for it, they'll come back to me to make sure that I sign off, and if Dean has to sign for it, he will. I mean, I just put in one this week, hoping to get funding for the security cameras that are on your supplemental, that will cut that cost in half.
Yeah, Patrick presented to you the switcheroo on his grant. Well, her office is the one that's going to administer that, not him. You know, and when Sam gets grants for ambulances and PPE and other equipment, her office is the one that administers those, not Sam. Landfill grants and engineering grants and litter grants and the second stage art grants and the tourism grants. It's just, there's
more out there, I don't have time to look for them.
Right.
Okay, that's all I can say, is I think there's more out there, I can't look for them. I just can't get all my work done in a reasonable amount of time, and I do have to have a life at some point.
I'd like to see it stay on there, personally.
Me too. So what do we need? Do we need a vote to?
I just need something to work with, or if you want.
Well, yeah, at this point, I
agree,
think we
wait,
do need
wait.
a vote, because we thought you know, when we presented the budget, that's why we give you the priorities, that this is your number one thing you want done, so we make sure we find the money to give you your number one thing. So if you are now changing that, then, yeah, please, we need to know there's at least 3 people behind it. Not a consensus. It's got to be something.
I can tell you, I want the grants administrator.
I second that, yeah.
Okay.
Well, here's
So,
silence.
and 2 do not. Mr. Ayers?
Well, in current climate, I mean, I too, as Mr. Martin brought up, and it's been discussed here, is continually growing government, and our county itself is very little to no growth. And I totally understand the importance of alternative funding to localities, but I don't think I can support it at the present time.
Okay, so I guess we'll drop that to down below the cut line. The fire marshal. You all had previously agreed that it would be good to have a fire marshal. I've got a director of public safety and his deputy, both trained to be fire marshals, but both have full-time jobs doing other things. We've got insurance companies waiting for fire investigations to be finished so that they can pay their claimants, so that their housing permits can be issued and they can rebuild their houses or do their work. Sam's prepared here tonight with numbers to justify that there's enough work for a full-time position for someone to do that work. Do you need to hear that?
I've personally made we're at 31,000, we have a population of 31,000. We already have people that teach the firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 class out of our volunteers. We've gotten along decent without having one for many, many years. And with the current conditions and climate, I don't support a fire marshal. I'd like to see that drop down and brought back next year.
Okay. You know, some of the complaints that we get are that we don't show up quickly enough on building permit sites. I guess, how does the rest of the board feel? You want to hear data, or does it not matter? Because if it doesn't matter, then we take these things off, and then that just rolls into the general fund, and the revenue will come in and sit there for a year, and we'll bring it back to you again next year.
Well, that revenue could be used to refund our taxpayers on the over at the car, personal property tax.
That is true.
That's one use that we could have with that.
That is true. Give the money back.
So do you want to fund nothing on the supplemental recurring? Because we have 2 small items on there.
I don't have a heartburn with the timekeeping or the signature software. I'm just not inclined to create positions.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure where I move stuff and as I create the documents for you.
All right, then let's move those top 2 items back below the cut line, and the 2 smaller items will be what's funded. Okay, and the next slide is about an opportunity to try to save some money. Can you roll that up, Stacy? Next one. Okay, so the proposal for the new division, yes, you can couch it as hiring more people, but what we're trying to do is take a $196,000 contract, and rather than pay a contractor, hire our own staff to do the same work and pay $150,000 to do that work.
And how many people is it?
It is 5 full-time and 5 part-time, 2 full-time. And of course, we hope to accomplish with this like we did with hauling our own trash, and that was we're more responsive. Everyone is pretty much dissatisfied with our janitorial contractor. Their prices keep going up. We anticipate getting another price increase in July, so we thought we would try this July to do it ourselves. We've crunched the numbers, and if we hire those people, we believe we can do it for less than what it's currently costing us. If we're wrong, the downside is that, okay, then we let those people go and we pay the money, we go out to bid again. But we think we can do a better job with, at less cost. But yes, we have to hire people in order to do the job ourselves.
And buy vans and startup supplies.
Yes, and that's all listed there.
Which is,
Correct. The one-time cost, yes, sir.
Yeah. So, I mean, have you negotiated with the existing contractors? Have you shopped for other?
Yes, we have.
Got requests for proposals?
Yes.
And
that's where we get these numbers from. But what they won't give us are numbers for, if we go out for bid in July. These are the current numbers that we're operating under. This is what we would build into the budget to pay for janitorial. And so, normally, if this were anything else, we would just do it because it's a cost savings to the county. But because we would need to hire new people, that means we're shifting money from a contracting line into a personnel line. I don't have the authority to do that. So I'm asking you for the authority to hire 2 full-time and 5 part-time. Maybe we can get by with less part-time. I think that's the hope. We want to be able to hire a lot and then pick the best. And because there's turnover in that industry, and it's going to be a challenge, and we're going to have to pay them well to keep the good ones.
Are those contractors local?
Yes.
County?
Yes. Are they in the county, David? No?
No. TMC, is that who it is?
TMC.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're local, it's a local business, small business. It employs people.
Right.
These estimates, these estimates are just that.
They are, they're crunched hard,
Yeah,
based on real numbers that we have.
Yeah, but we've seen them come and go. We've seen them be much more expensive than what the numbers that you've shown us too, I don't know.
Okay. Well, then we would have to go out to bid, because this contract is only good to the end of June, David?
Yeah.
So we have to go out for bid with each of them and get a new contract and absorb whatever their inflation is. But, the current budget's $196,000. So we anticipate spending that this year. We wouldn't start this until 1 July, but we would have until then to hire the people. Some of the people have already been recruited. Kay Napier would be in charge of this division from out at the
You've already
landfill.
recruited people? And you
She's recruiting, she's in charge of all of the part-timers that work at the convenience centers And so our collection of part-time people, some of them want more hours, and so she's been attempting to find people that we can stand up with on the 1st of July.
Well, most of the people they're older gentlemen usually.
There's a whole collection of different people, yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
janitorial service is not an easy position. I mean.
Well, the people that we have now doing it are no spring chickens either. And they don't necessarily do a very good job. I get complaints from all the staff. Some organizations hire completely separate companies because they don't want to deal with the company that we've got. And of course, we got the lowest bidder, and anybody else costs a lot more. That's why we think we can do it better ourselves.
If you're not satisfied with them, bid it out to somebody else.
We have. And we can pay more, but that wasn't what was in the budget. And we know we can get better service if we pay more. Of course we can. But we think we can get better service if we pay less, if we do it ourselves. Anyway, that is our, we need approval to hire people, and so that I need a motion and up or down. And if it's down, then we'll just go out to bid and build that into the budget.
You know, what I see is, we see a reduction in price, but then, just as an example, this year, we see a 15% increase in health insurance benefits. So, you know, that's an increase we don't know. It's going to increase it as well, so it's going to drive our cost up in the long run.
Those costs were built into the budget that's been presented, yes, sir.
It might go up again, so. Then at the same time, you know, I feel like it is good to have some outside contracts, because you're perpetuating private business, you know. Not at you don't want to do it at the detriment to the county, but at the same time, you know, that's somebody's livelihood as well.
Well, you know, over time, the pendulum swings. Sometimes it's cheaper to go out to contract than do it yourself, and sometimes the economy is such that it's cheaper to bring it in-house. And so I feel obliged to always be looking at that in all of our processes.
I'll be true to what I said earlier with no new staff this year, and I'll make a motion that we stay with our current service of using contractors.
All right. There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Martin. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
Motion carries 3-2.
Okay, next slide, Stace.
This is the reworked CIP, once you all had your conversation at the workshop. I just wanted you to see how it all kind of played out. A lot of things got pushed out to 23, 24 that were on the current year list.
You may have to call that up on your own screen,
Yeah,
just so
I
you
know
can
it's
read
just
it. There's
small.
no easy way to get it. It's such a long list. But you asked for, in the workshop, I remember you asked for the top 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We were able to add a couple more in.
No, we carried over the bright and we did the top 4.
That's how you did it.
And everything else got pushed out to the next year.
Do you want to maintain that list the way it is? Add anything to it or take anything from it?
Mr. Rogers, in that section where you've got clerk dehumidifiers, have we done dehumidifiers in certain areas but not all areas? I know we did some HVAC systems upgrades.
We haven't done humidifiers.
We haven't done any yet.
No, we did some in the past in the treasurer's building at one time. This has been several years ago. They put.
Dehumidifiers?
I thought they did.
Yeah.
And they put in the, can't even think of the name.
Yeah, that whole building, upstairs and down, have systems in it, yes.
The old health department building,
And
correct?
of course, they're in the courthouse now, too.
What area is this, the clerk dehumidifiers? Which clerks,
This is circuit court.
what, are they having issues with humidity or something in the
Well,
clerks?
this is for the records room, I understand.
She
Was-
can't get her records back from, she's had a lot
That's correct.
of
There
things
was some-
restored.
Mildew and mold in some of the old records, and they won't return them back to the courthouse.
They
until-
send copies back, but
she
they're not
can't get
sending
the
the
originals
originals
back.
because there's nowhere to climate control it. I've helped her on a lot of those grants she's gotten, and that's one of the stipulations, is the Library of Virginia is keeping this stuff for her.
Because the dehumidification is
Yeah.
not appropriate.
She's done a lot of work on those records up there.
And we
It's pretty
spent quite a bit of
amazing.
money. Yeah, and a lot of money's been spent on
It's
them.
pretty amazing. I'm always impressed when I go up there.
It's in there.
But that's number 5.
Yeah, but we're funding all of that, right?
Yes, that's
That is.
included in the budget,
Okay.
yes, sir. That is included and ready to go.
So but that brings it up to, that's almost 1.877 million on capital improvements this year?
1.7 out of the general fund.
Oh, 1.7.
Because we're anticipating a grant for,
And 125 in grants.
for the medic unit, possibly.
Okay, I mean, that's a little on the heavy side. Usually it's about 1.5, but
Yeah, but,
we do have additional revenue coming in with the cigarette tax.
and we may have some savings on the software, we just don't know what it's gonna be yet.
Yeah, that's my concern. If you look at the information we got today, we know this, we're declining on our unobligated fund, but, so you want to be cognizant of that as we make these decisions, but I'm fine with that.
Okay, as long as you're good with this, and I've got you all are good with the supplemental red line on the one-time money?
Let's go back to that slide. This list. Anything you want to change on this list?
The Mill Creek survey, we just discussed that today, right?
Right.
Right, so we're gonna reduce the supplemental, and then, because you've already given it to us in the current year.
Pull out.
Well, this will be a payback, though. We're taking it out of unobligated, you still have to pay it back.
Well, if you don't
So this will
take,
be repayment to,
you want it paid out of the grant money?
When the grant money arrives, I'll pay it back into the general fund.
That's
So,
what
yeah,
we
this is
said.
coming out of the general
Okay,
fund.
so I didn't understand that, because this
I
was
got it.
budgeted as supplemental out of the general fund.
Yeah.
All I was asking for was to,
Yeah, but this is in July, so we needed it now.
correct, but I did not know we were funding it out of the grant.
Yeah,
No,
well,
we're-
we don't get the grant money until
we're not
July.
fund-
and
we're
that's
not,
when I pay
we
back
took it
into
out of the
the-
unobligated.
The motion was to take it out of the unobligated fund.
Yes. And then if we get the grant, it will be reimbursed by the grant, correct? Or just?
I didn't understand it that way, because I was just gonna reduce the draw here.
Well, what if you don't get the grant? We still wanted the lake surveyed whether or not we got the grant or not.
Right.
Correct.
So what we were saying is, okay, if you need to go ahead and survey it, use it out of the unobligated general fund, right? And then right here, instead of saying Mill Creek survey, it would be Mill Creek survey repayment to unobligated. You just replace it. We're basically just
You
forwarding
could,
it.
we'll work it out. It's, yes, you're right. You're right. So,
Well, if we're not right, tell me, but that's what
no,
we said.
you're right. I mean, she's thinking accounting and different accounts, but the bottom line is, we need the money now. It's got to come from the general fund now.
Right.
So we pay that invoice. And then you all want from the ARPA money, that money paid back in July when we spend that ARPA money or get those grant funds.
Well, no, this money
We're not
right
doing
here is
ARPA
not
money.
ARPA funds.
Correct, that's
That's right, so we were just paying it back out of here. The reason we had to do that is because this budget hasn't been passed and wouldn't be until July.
Yeah, and what Stacy is thinking is, because this takes place in July, and since we already paid for it, it shouldn't be on this list.
Yeah, I get that.
It still goes
That's-
back in the same bucket without having to have
Right.
another line
It's all
on
the same
the
place.
report.
Well, as long as it goes back in the same bucket, I think we're all fine.
Right.
But
So all I was gonna do is reduce this by $20,000.
So what we do is we now recrunch these numbers based upon no new manpower, and the changes to this, and the changes to the recurring revenue of the supplemental budget, and bring those numbers back to you. And the ultimate result should be, there's a much higher, go back to the 111
Well, we also,
There's a much higher
Should we
amount.
discuss about the other, I mean,
we also asked you to look at reducing the personal property tax,
yeah. I put
Yes,
that on my
we have to
notes.
crunch that.
which may not be a big recurring.
I think what we're going to end up doing is giving you a dollar amount to work with and identify the percentage that we'd have to,
But you have to
pay
rewrite
back
the
the
code
personal
every
property.
time you do that, just so you know.
yes,
That has to
yes.
be changed every time.
Anytime we mess with taxes. They're not going to, that's an issue for Mark
We had an
to
attorney.
write that.
Well, we have to do it in time before we hit the fiscal year.
All right, I'm fine with the supplemental.
Rest fine with it.
All right.
Okay.
This one done. That was a no. You're okay with the CIP?
Yep.
Okay, so here's your financial projections.
So here's what we look like with revenues and expenses as we project them at present. But that's now going to change because our expenses just went down without
How?
these new people.
They weren't,
No, they weren't included.
they were not included. They're the extra money.
You didn't project them out into the future.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
they weren't approved yet.
We're even better now.
all right.
But the difference right there on 2023 with the red below the green is the fact that you all have $267,000 to play with.
Yeah, that's the difference.
That's the difference. And then by next year, you will have like,
all right, but Ms. McBride, you just said something that I want to ask about. So you said that if you look at 2024, right, the lines cross.
they barely, like they're right
But
together.
it's like right
They
there.
break even.
All
Yeah,
right,
so it's going to be really close.
and you said that you had not included those new positions because they hadn't been approved yet, right? So if we had approved those new positions, that operating, those lines would have been flipped, right? We'd have been below the green line.
Correct, because I needed
Yeah.
a decision from you. But that's in 2024. I can't project out much further.
Yeah.
Because after that, it doesn't matter if you have the position, two positions or not, you're going to go negative. There has not been a tax increase on property taxes since 2016.
Yeah, but there was a reassessment, and
Correct.
it
Right.
was, I think it changed a little bit of that. Some people did pay more, some paid less.
It gave a little bit of a bump. It wasn't a great big bump.
And there will be another assessment probably, well, depending on what we do, at least within the next few years. I mean, 4 years.
Okay, so the next slide shows the future fund. And now, the future fund did not include any of these. Did you include in the 267?
Nope.
The 111?
No. This just includes, I don't think I did. No,
I mean, if you're gonna,
It's got the 350 in there because I knew that was a guarantee.
Okay, so it's got the cigarette tax in there.
It's got the cigarette tax in there.
But you didn't put in the 111.
No. not
So
yet.
that would cause the bottom purple line to rise faster. And now if we're not funding these other positions, that will cause that bottom purple line to rise even faster.
Yeah,
So
and
what you're really doing by not funding these positions is you're setting the money, it's recurring revenue. So it's going into the future fund, unless you want it to go somewhere else, was what we used to apply toward the CIP. And we're trying to, get it to where we fund, or have, at least $1.5 million a year available for the CIP. And so that's a good thing. If that purple line keeps rising, that's a good thing. That's what takes care of our ability to fund major projects in the future. So with that, I don't think we need anything more. Do you?
No, I didn't.
We're not going to stand up the division. We're not going to hire the new positions. We are going to calculate options with regard to the personal property tax.
All right.
Is there anything else that we need to take for direction?
I think we're good, board. I believe we're good. Everything's done.
Okay, the next one is next week on the schedule?
If they want to have it, it's a special one. If they don't want to have it until the 15th, that's fine too.
Yeah, do we need to have one next week? Why don't we just wait till the...
Those are marked as tentative based on your needs.
We're just trying to give you enough time to keep making changes and keep asking questions.
Let's just go ahead and, if everybody's already done, just make it on the 15th for the second meeting.
Okay.
All right.
At 5 PM on the 15th will be the next workshop, and then we'll have a 7 PM meeting. So we'll present these changes to you at 5.
All right, tentatively, what is the date for the public hearing of the budget? You know, April?
It's
May.
May,
yeah. There's still
Okay,
time.
anyway, we got time.
You got time.
All right, board, if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion on the floor, all in favor, please say aye.